everyone. Those who don't know me, my name's Gabby Giddy, and this is my first actual YouTube video that I'm going to be filming. I recently just got back from a trip around Southeast Asia and a little bit of Australia before I had to come back due to the global pandemic. So I've had a lot of time on my hands. So I thought I'd just take you through each country I went through, give you some tips, things I wish I had known, as it was my first time in Southeast Asia. And yeah, let's go from there. So I have a little cup of tea to start us off this morning. And yeah, I guess we'll get going. So the route that I did in Vietnam was I started in Da Nang. So I actually flew from Montreal to Qatar and then to Da Nang. When I was booking flights, I didn't really care where I was going. I just booked the cheapest flight to anywhere in Southeast Asia. I had lists from like Bangkok, Phnom Penh, Ho Chi Minh, literally everywhere, and Da Nang ended up being the cheapest route. So when I was researching, I realized most of what I wanted to see was in northern Vietnam, so I ended up kind of just sticking to the north. So I'll kind of take you through that. So to start, I landed in Da Nang. I only spent one night here. Since it was my first time in Asia, I was a little bit overwhelmed and really jet lagged. I didn't think I needed any more than the day that I had there. Some people really did like it though. I ended up staying in just like a small hotel. And then the next day, I ended up taking a local bus from Da Nang to Hoi An, which is a little bit south of Da Nang. And this is the town with all the lanterns. It's beautiful. I highly recommend it. And the food was like the best there. I really, really enjoyed it. In Hoi An, I ended up staying at Bed Station Hostel, and I'd really recommend this one. It was a little bit outside of the city, but you got to see quite a bit on your like daily walks into Hoi An, and it was also kind of on the beach side of things. It was a pretty clean hostel with a really good breakfast, and the people there were really fun to hang out with. Another reason I really liked it is that they had a bike tour, so in the afternoon we all went for a bike ride, and we went through like the rice paddy fields, and we also went on this like coffee making tour. And as many of you may know, Vietnam is known for their coffee, and it was really cool to see like the process of that. We also had a cooking class and made spring rolls, which was really fun and like a good way to meet everyone in the hostel. From Hoi An, I ended up flying to Hanoi. Here, let me just grab my journal actually, where all the secrets are kept. So yeah, Da Nang, Hoi An. Once I flew to Hanoi, I ended up staying at Flipside Hostel. I didn't really like the vibe, but also it was kind of empty, so I'm not sure which it was. A lot of my friends stayed at Central Backpackers or Vietnam Backpackers. Those are both fun. I went and hung out there for a lot of my nights there. So I really liked Hanoi. It was kind of my base in the north. It's the biggest city up there. And this is kind of where I had a home base, quote unquote, because I came back there quite a few times. So I don't know if I can give you some recommendations here for things to do in Hanoi. But yeah, it was really, really cool. So from there, I ended up going to Cat Ba Island, and this is where I'd recommend if you want to do a Ha Long Bay tour and see that. I would recommend going to Cat Ba first. So getting to Cat Ba, I believe I took a bus, and then we had to get onto a ferry and then another bus, and then they dropped you right outside your hostel. Here are some clips from Cat Ba Island. Hope you enjoy. Mama's wondering why he grades a push your headphones on and shut the door. I think I never know. The one I stayed at was Central Backpackers. It was great. I really liked it. They had a pool. It was a little chilly when I was there because it was still the winter, but it was beautiful. The hostel was super clean. They had a really good breakfast. And like, again, there was really great people when I was traveling there. This is actually where I learned to drive a scooter. They have Cat Ba National Park, which I highly recommend going to. It's very lush, lots of mountains up there. Actually, funny story, when I was up there, we were chatting with everyone who had also gone to this platform. And we're just seeing where everybody was from. And someone else said they're from Canada. And I was like, oh, no way, where are you from? And they said they're on exchange in Singapore and they go to Queen's, and I actually went to Queen's University as well. And we had some mutual friends, so that was pretty fun. And so this is how I recommend doing a Ha Long Bay tour. So you book it through Central Backpackers. It was probably 14 Canadian dollars. So this tour includes lunch, kayaking, like a trip around Lan Ha Bay and Ha Long Bay, and beautiful. You essentially, Lan Ha Bay and Ha Long Bay are very similar. So they pick you up right from the hostel. We had a big group of us that we'd met the day before and we all booked it together, and then we went on that and it was super cheap. I know a lot of the ones I saw in Hanoi for Halong Bay were like $200 plus. I really enjoyed this one. It was pretty chill, you could swim, whatnot. Yeah, it was really good. I recommended that to everybody I met so far. And from here, I was going to go to Sapa. However, someone told me they're going to Ninh Bình, so him and I went to Ninh Bình instead. Loved it. I think if you went in the summer months, it'd be phenomenal. We went in the winter and I didn't have enough warm clothes, so it was a little bit cold the entire time, but nonetheless, Ninh Bình is beautiful and I think it's so worth it. We stayed at Green Mountain Homestay. It was beautiful. It was just right on this like almost like rice fields, kind of looked like a river. There's all these like rock formations everywhere. It was really neat. My friend and I ended up renting a scooter, so we went around all in Ninh Bình that day. It was really cool to see. And then the next day, him and I went on this like river cruise type thing, which is also really cool and not very busy. Not sure if that was because time of year, if it was low season, or just what was happening in China and we're so close just being in northern Vietnam. After Ninh Bình, I had to go back to Hanoi, and from here I was going to do the Ha Giang Loop. It was the 3-day, 2-night one, and the people we had on our tour were excellent. I think that's a common thing in Vietnam. Everyone seems to be really like-minded, fun people, and it was just spectacular. The views are amazing. The guides are really fun. We tried happy water, which is rice wine, which is deadly. And yeah, we just really had a good time. And the food's all included. I really recommend it.
Teachers asking you if you're okay. Say your body's here, your mind's away. Daydreaming of what's to come. Cartoons all day, in my phone. Mama's wondering why your grades are poor. Put your headphones on and shut the door. I think they'll never know. I think they'll never know. I don't think they know. Should I really care? I know my light is there. I know what this.
So just some tips. If you are going to Vietnam in January, they have the Tet holiday, which is the Vietnamese New Year. Everything closes down. Literally the entire country shuts down. And when I was researching Vietnam, I noticed this and I was like, oh, how exciting, I'm there for a new year. However, it is really fun, but if you're trying to travel over this kind of like plus or minus 3 days during the Tet, nothing's open, food's pretty limited. I'd just be cautious of where you want to stay. Also, hostels were kind of booked up. A lot of people weren't even open, like they shut the hostels down. That's just something to look out for when you are booking in January. And just a couple things on booking in Asia overall. I would go through Hostel World, but then also check out Agoda. It seemed to always give me the cheapest price. One thing I'd be cautious about, I didn't have an issue in Vietnam, but once I was in Cambodia, I booked a hostel through Agoda, and my friends booked through Hostel World and they all got free breakfast. Meanwhile, I did not. I'm not really sure why. Another thing I'd recommend is downloading the Grab app before you get to Asia and just activating it with your like normal cell phone number, because it still works once you get there, but you can't do it without a verification code. So while I was still in Canada, I downloaded Grab, set up my credit card details and whatnot, and had that when I like landed in Vietnam. Another thing is if you're going in the winter months and you're going to northern Vietnam, bring warm clothing. I didn't. I had like a rain jacket and like a quarter zip that was very thin, and I regretted this, so I ended up buying clothing there. Another thing I'd recommend is when you're booking through Vietjet, book a shuttle to the city through when you're like doing your online booking. It's $1 or $2 US, and it takes you right into the city center. This is what I did when I flew from Da Nang to Hanoi. So the visa requirements for Vietnam are a little bit different. Before you even get on the plane, fly there, you have to apply for a visa. It's kind of through a third-party website. I just googled like Vietnam visa and a couple of them popped up, and they give you this piece of paper. You can see other travelers' names on it too. I thought it was a little sketchy, but it ended up working out. So you print that off. You need to show the airline before you board. So when I was in Canada, they asked for it and I had to show them. Some people I've heard didn't do this or forgot to do this and they had to pay like over $200 at the airport to get a visa approved on the spot. So I definitely recommend getting that before you go. You have to anyway to get into the country. So once you get to Vietnam, there's, in my case in Da Nang, it was a little bit odd. There's like the arrivals where you kind of go through customs, but then there's this visa booth. So in my case, I had to go to this visa booth. You pay them, I think, 25 US dollars, hand them your passport, and then they run away with it essentially, and you kind of just stand there confused. In my opinion, that's what happened to me at least. And then they just start shouting out passport names and they put the visa in there. Not really sure why this is their process. It's very confusing when you're seeing everyone kind of running around. There's probably like a swarm of 30 people at this visa desk, and then you go through customs. Again, this process took me a lot longer than I was expecting. The only benefit I saw was my luggage was already out by the time I went through, so I guess that was a plus. Another thing is, in Vietnam, a lot of things are in US currency. For like bigger tours such as like a Ha Long Bay tour or Ha Giang Loop, you can just pay in US. I almost recommend doing this because you'd have to withdraw a ton of Vietnamese dong. Just remember that's kind of the currency they use for these visas. And as well as if you're going to Cambodia, that's the local currency there as well. And it never really hurts to have extra US dollars. It's pretty easy to exchange for other currency. Just make sure they're new and not bent or wrinkly. They were kind of strict to some of my friends there. And lower bills are better, such as like 1s, 5s, 10s, 20s, 50s, and 100s. They got a little bit sketched out by those, so I wouldn't recommend bringing those. Yeah, so thank you for watching my first video. So I'm just starting my channel, so if you want to like and subscribe, that'd help me out a lot, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.